The middle class can no longer afford rent in America. Ensuring a secure and affordable housing situation is crucial for the prosperity of all Americans. Traditionally, low-income families have faced challenges in accessing affordable rental homes. However, the problem has now extended to the middle class, with millions of middle-income earners finding it difficult to afford rent in major U.S. cities due to steep price increases since the pandemic. Without substantial pay raises or government assistance, these middle-class households are finding themselves excluded from typical middle-class neighborhoods. This exclusion sets off a chain reaction, contributing to systemic poverty and persistent inequality. In essence, housing costs are placing a significant strain on the middle class. Various statistics and facts have been compiled to illustrate this trend. In the past, the American dream often involved getting married, settling down, purchasing a home, and growing old. However, contemporary challenges, such as increased debt, soaring housing costs, and rampant inflation, have reshaped this dream. Buying a home is no longer a feasible option for everyone. Presently, almost 43 million families in America live in rented apartments, marking the highest level in history. Over the last 5 years, there has been a remarkable surge in the number of middle-class renters. The households earning between $56,000 and $100,000 annually opting for renting have increased by 82%, according to a recent report from the Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University. Simultaneously, rental vacancy rates are at their lowest since 1985. Once renters secure housing, they face the financial burden, as the typical home now costs about $80,000 more than it did just 2 years ago. Additionally, the average rent in the U.S. has surged by over $1,000 since 2020. Rental prices are currently on the rise, increasing by an average of 3.5% annually. Unfortunately, this surge in housing costs comes at a challenging time for middle-class renters, whose incomes have seen a decline of 9% over the past decade. In an interview with ABC, Robert Gary, a salesman from Columbus, Ohio, shared his experience of once leading a comfortable middle-class life until the pandemic altered everything. Gary expressed frustration as he noticed his pay failing to keep up with the rising cost of living. Living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to make ends meet, he highlighted the impact of rent increases on his financial stability. His landlord informed him of a substantial rent hike, from $1,710 per month to $1,950 per month, starting January 2023, an alarming $240 increase per month. Gary found this hike unsustainable, stating that no one seems to care anymore, with companies taking as much as they can get. When asked if he could afford the increased rent, Gary lamented that it would consume half his income, making it unmanageable in the face of rising prices for everything else. The only affordable alternatives he could find were in neighborhoods where he wouldn't feel safe. This abrupt shift forced Gary out of his middle-class lifestyle, and he now has to stay with a friend until he can find an affordable place to live. This unfortunate situation reflects a broader trend, with similar struggles becoming increasingly common for middle-income renters. Chris Herbert, the managing director of the Joint Center of Housing Studies, JCHS, pointed out that in 2023, the rental housing market in America is divided into two segments. While higher-income renters enjoy a healthier supply of housing choices, middle-income renters face escalating challenges and limited options. Families earning less than $100,000 per year are facing difficult trade-offs between securing housing and putting food on the table. In numerous metropolitan areas across the United States, the American middle class is grappling with housing costs that far exceed their affordability. A recent study reveals that 21.2% of middle-class homeowners and 46.3% of middle-class renters in the country are either moderately or severely burdened by housing costs. This burden is defined as spending more than 30% or more than 50% of their income on housing, respectively. The property price boom in recent years has resulted in 70% of homes being out of reach for first home buyers with middle incomes. Particularly concerning are the current high interest rates, making it necessary for those who can afford to buy a home to save for an extra year to accumulate a 20% deposit. Meanwhile, rents are claiming increasingly significant portions of income. For instance, in Boston, the median rent has surged to $2,680 in February, marking a 24% increase from 3 years ago. To afford this rent, a household would need an annual income of at least $117,000, based on the standard definition of affordability. paying no more than 30% of income for housing. However, many professionals, such as entry-level school teachers and registered nurses, earn significantly less than this threshold. Similar challenges are observed in other cities, with median rents in Los Angeles reaching $3,000 and in Washington, D.C., hitting $2,600 per month. The demand for rental housing is high due to various factors, including a growing population of millennials burdened with student loans, baby boomer retirees downsizing to apartments, former homeowners exiting foreclosure, and millions of would-be homeowners unable to access mortgages in the tight credit market. Despite this high demand, the pace of new residential construction has been insufficient to make up for years of limited growth in many cities. This scarcity has resulted in a situation where high-income renters can support prices that are out of reach for the middle class, lower-wage employees, and seniors. The imbalance between supply and demand is expected to keep rents high in the foreseeable future, contributing to what is described as a rental affordability crisis. The shift in the rental landscape is notable, with the share of middle-class renters increasing since 2010, following the healing of the economy from the 2008 housing bust. Rising home prices and increased rents since the Great Recession have strained family budgets nationwide, especially in cities like Denver and Austin, where the cost of rentals has become prohibitive for much of the middle class. In 2022, the capital required to lease an average-priced $3,500 per month apartment in San Francisco often exceeds $12,000 due to first and last month's rent, security deposits, and broker fees. This affordability challenge has intensified over the past 15 years, marking a significant shift in the rental landscape. There has been a noteworthy surge in home building across the nation, aiming to compensate for the virtual standstill during the recession. However, the repercussions of not constructing anything during the economic downturn are still affecting us today, according to Andrew Bueno, founder of the Los Angeles-based real estate investment firm Bueno Group. He notes that if you find yourself in the missing middle, you face significant challenges. This term represents individuals who are not affluent enough to navigate the current housing market without facing financial strain, but are also not financially disadvantaged enough to qualify for government housing assistance. U.S. cities are witnessing a growing divide between high-income individuals capable of affording high rents or down payments and lower-income individuals qualifying for subsidized housing. Meanwhile, middle-income earners are finding themselves increasingly priced out of their desired neighborhoods. Each passing year compounds the difficulty for middle-class renters who don't qualify for subsidized housing, making it harder for them to secure affordable apartments in the market. The affordability challenge is stark, with renters needing to earn $21.21 per hour to afford a modest two-bedroom apartment in the U.S., as per the National Low-Income Housing Council. This is significantly more than the average national hourly wage of $16.38. Consequently, 51% of middle-class renters cannot afford housing in most U.S. cities. The disappearance of savings associated with the middle class over the past few years has been notable. Stagnant wage growth makes it challenging for people to stay in the middle class and accumulate the sums required to rent or buy city apartments. Michael Dickerson, a housing expert at the University of Texas, emphasizes that the affordable housing crisis extends beyond the very poor to those with good jobs who are not poor enough to qualify for subsidized housing, but also not wealthy enough to meet rising housing prices. For instance, a family making $100,000 a year may find it impossible to buy a house in most U.S. cities. Analysts at the University of Texas estimate that a comfortable middle-class family life would require an income of around $300,000 a year, considering rising costs of essentials like gasoline, food, housing, travel, tuition, and healthcare. Despite being statistically possible to raise a family with less income, achieving a middle-class lifestyle becomes increasingly challenging, especially when striving to save for retirement, a child's education, home ownership, and a reasonable retirement age. Many Americans, especially those with lower incomes, face difficulty managing everyday expenses. Spending a significant portion of income on rent has far-reaching implications, impacting expenditures on food and healthcare. A study by Apartment List indicates that households in the U.S. spend 41% less on food and 71% less on healthcare due to the housing cost burden. Fannie Mae's Kim Betancourt notes that there is not enough affordable housing for those who need it, creating a chain reaction where a middle-class person may occupy an apartment that a lower-income person could have taken. leading to systemic poverty and increasing inequality in America. This housing and rental crisis is reflective of deeper societal issues, indicating the erosion of the middle class. The current financial distress is a reminder that more challenges lie ahead for everyday Americans. Would you like it? Hit the like button and subscribe to our channels for more interesting and informative videos.